the Spotify Duotone photo effect. And this is not the best of images, but this is an example of what that's going to look like. Of course, we're not going to add the font, however. So we're going to close this screenshot. I'm going to use the student's photo who's in my photography class. And I'm going to show you how, even if you have a photo that's not just on their face, how we're going to crop that and use that. And of course, he's got his mask around his chin. So this is in 2021. Of course, we still have masks around, but I otherwise think this is a good photo to use. So we're going to take this, we're going to drop this photo into Photoshop, and it's going to open, and we're going to be good to go. Now, currently I'm running Photoshop 21. I've instructed students to have their workspace set up like what you see here. If that is different than your semester, don't be bothered or confused by that. So we've got our photo. I'm going to Command minus just a little bit because I want to see my edges. I need to crop this. So I'm going to go to the crop tool, third tool down on the left-hand side. And I could drag these sliders from corners or edges like that, but I can also cut around him, like drag and drop around him. And I do think a portrait is slightly more successful when it is off-centered for the rule of thirds, which the crop tool specifically gives you rule of thirds. So you get that tic-tac-toe applied over the top. So I've clicked and dragged this, and now I've moved him around. I put him like that. And then all I have to do is hit return on the keyboard. And so you'll see that now in the layers panel, this is our new image. We do not still have the rest of the image here. Up here in my settings, this was by default, it was set to delete cropped pixels. So it did not maintain that data. There is a setting where if you uncheck this, it would maintain that, but I have no reason to maintain that. And we still have the original photo. So of course, when you're editing a photo, you want to keep your original in its original place where it came from. So now the next order of business is we're going to hit Command 0. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit there. And now it's a little bit bigger. I'm going to go back to the Move tool. The first thing we need to do is we need to select him, his head, and the top of his shoulders. And so to do that, and in this case, also the mask here and the mask here where it's connected to his head. So to do that, we're going to go to second tool down on the right-hand side. And what you're probably seeing is object selection tool, which by default is usually on the top. And so the object selection tool is new in a version or two ago of Photoshop, and it's really remarkable. So we're going to see how well this is going to work. We're going to click over his head, and we get a pretty good selection, especially of his hair. Okay. So, but we need to add his ear. We need to add this part of the mask over here. We need to add his chin, and we need to add his shoulders. So I need to add to this selection. And to do that, I need to hold down the Shift key. And again, I'm still on object selection, but see when I hold down Shift, see how the plus comes up? So I'm adding to the current selection. So I'm holding down Shift, and I click and drag over the general area, and I get most of that. I still don't have all of it. I'm going to do it again. Shift, click and drag over the general area. Again, I'm not getting his mask and chin area, so let's try this again. And we're getting pretty close. Again, I'm going to hold Shift and click and drag. Now, when you get to a point where it's just not picking up the rest of what you need it to pick up, come over here, click down, hold down rather, click and hold down, go to quick selection. And again, there's my plus by default. Now this is to make a new selection up here if I were to choose that. This is to add to current selection. And this is to take away, to minus from current selection. So I need to be in the add to current selection. Now notice it's like a paintbrush. Even the icon here looks like a paintbrush. So the diameter is an important part of this tool. Sometimes if you're zoomed in and you're trying to get something very specific and it's hard to pick it up because maybe the background is of similar color, you might need to make the diameter smaller of this quick selection brush. Or in other instances, you need to make it way larger. Okay. So technically it goes up to 5,000 pixels and down to as little as one. Okay. I think we'll put it somewhere along this 90, 100 mark. Okay. And then let's give that a try. So I'm going to zoom in just a little, and I want to make sure I'm going to click where just where the edge of the brush is going to grab the parts that I want. So see how that kind of took on that. Definitely need to get this section. We need to get this tiny little piece here. We need to get this here. We need to get this here. And I'm just going to trace around the image and make sure I need to pick up, that's a little, should be a little smoother right there. We need to get this out here to the ear. Now I'm going to hit Command Z because that didn't do a very good job. And now that looks better, but I also need that little bit of white right there. So I'm going to do that. Okay. So now we've got all of that. Picked up the edge of his hair pretty good. And then I'm going to rest this here, just right there. So it's kind of hitting that edge. And there we go. Now I'm going to hit Command 0. Okay. This could be different based on different versions of Photoshop that people are running. But basically, now that I have, this is my selection. Excuse me. These black and white moving dots around here, we refer to those as marching ants. So now you've got your marching ants. And you're going to go up to Select and Mask. Okay. And within this panel, I'm going to soften. I'm going to attempt to soften the edge of the student here. So I'm going to I'm going to blur the edge. Now realize this is a picture with, over what, 1150 pixels in the width and over 850 pixels in the height. So this is a fairly high resolution image. I could, I'm softening it by, let's go 4 pixels on this. Okay. You certainly don't want to do it too much. Then he would be blurry, or his edge would be very blurry. Okay. So I am, you know what, let's make it, when I put that transparency all the way up, this is just a preview. And so that allows me to see my edge, how harsh or how soft it's going to be. So technically, I could probably go further. Let's go further with this. Let's go 15. Now I can slide this, or you can click on here and type your number. Okay. And again, that's going to give me also a preview of the edge. Actually, I don't want that because that's too much of this extra stuff around here. So I need to bring that down. Okay. So I apologize. I misspoke. We're going to soften this. We're going to let's keep it at 4 and see how that looks. So I'm typing in 4. That should be okay. Okay. I'm going to cancel that. I probably need to keep it at color aware so that it's recognizing the white and his hair and all that stuff around there. So we're going to stay at 4 for the radius. We're going to say we want to smooth this. I want to see in the preview what I get when I bring smooth up. I mean, I think it looks pretty good. It doesn't hurt to try this also with the feathering. Let's see what we get. Now this, I have to say, I've never adjusted the contrast when it comes to the select and mask. Okay, so I don't think we need to shift the edge. I think the rest of the settings are okay. You're going to have to play with it about what works best for your photo. So I'm going to hit OK. Okay. Now, now what we need to do is we've got him selected, but actually we need to select the background and get rid of it. So we're going to select the inverse. So you're going to go up to select and down to inverse. Now you can see we actually have the background selected, and then we're going to hit delete on the keyboard. Okay. Now, with that, we are going to, now we have this um, we have this completely separate background that is gone. I'm going to deselect that by hitting Command D. And then I need to go over here to plus and add a new layer. And in that new layer, I need to hit Edit, Fill, and then I need to choose white. Okay, so I've already got that on white. That's what the drop-down menu looks like, on white, and say okay. So now we've got two layers here. And I'm going to take this layer and I'm going to hit Command J, and I'm going to move it above this white layer. I'm going to go back to the white layer, and I'm going to go down to here's how it will come up if you hover over it. A new adjustment layer, create new filler adjustment layer. I'm going to click on that and go gradient map. And I want to take that gradient map above. So I'm clicking and dragging this whole layer above his picture, okay? And then inside this, I'm going to double click. Now, you're going to get choices for a gradient. It's really important for this assignment to choose two contrasting colors for your gradient. And so you would double click here and choose a color, okay? And then you would double click here and you would choose an opposing color. You really should have some ideas kind of worked out in advance as to what you might want to use so that you can kind of find something that works. That's obviously too harsh. So let's see if we can't get down in here into these more grays option of that red. And then actually, I think that one looks pretty good. Let's see. I kind of like that. Let's see if we can't make this brighter. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to go with this as my choice. You need two contrasting colors that are pretty bright. Okay. And then we're going to say okay. And now we've got this duotone. This was the whole idea of the assignment. So we've got this duotone effect over here applied to this top layer. I still have an original layer that I made of him down here. Now this next part is a little bit tricky, so please follow along. If you don't already have your shapes tools here, click on the three dots and go down and find the ellipse tool. So my ellipse tool, I used it last, and so it's highlighted there. So when I clicked on the three little dots to add to the toolbar, my ellipse tool is there. Now I want to make 3 white circles of varying size. I want them to be filled with white and not have a stroke. Okay, so fill with white, and you choose white if it's not already there, and then stroke should be none. To make a perfect circle from the ellipse tool, I need to hold the shift key. So I'm going to click and drag click and drag while holding the shift key, which made a perfect circle. I'm going to do it again over here, and I'm going to do another one down here. Okay, now these are these can kind of go wherever you'd like, but they're connected to each other because I've created them in the same smart object on the same layer. So if you decide you want to move them around, you can. Definitely do that before you do the next step. So make sure, and actually I think I'm going to hit Command Z. I think I'd like to put that one in a slightly different spot. We'll do it like that. Okay, so I've got my 3 and they're connected. See, I can move them around with the move tool. I can hit Command Z and they'll go back to where they were. And you intentionally want to cover portions of your portrait. So you want to cover portions of your portrait for this technique to work. Okay, so while this layer is selected, I'm going to come down here and I'm going to hit Command Option and then click on this layer. Okay. Now I'm going to go select inverse. So again, we have our background. Again, this is still selected. Now I'm going to click add a layer mask, and you can see that his profile is black and the background is white. And what happened is we got our dots behind him. Okay, so we've got the blue background at the very back, then the blue dots, and then him with the gradient of the blue background connected. So we positioned those dots kind of like in between the background and him. Okay, and so that's how it should look: black silhouette, white background. And I did that by selecting the inverse. Okay, so I hope this worked for you. It made sense. Definitely rewind, pause, play again as needed to get this duotone effect that we're talking about over here, and then make sure to save your work. I like to save it on the computer, on the desktop, based on the number of the assignment. As a PDF is what I'm asking you to do to turn into Google Classroom, so that I can easily see your work through Google Classroom. And it will ask you about this. You can say, yes, I do understand that this won't open in previous versions of Photoshop. And then you're going to see my finished product shows up right there on my desktop, and it's ready to turn in, slide right into Google Classroom. So I hope this made sense and worked for you. Have a good afternoon. Bye-bye.